Neighbors laughed when he built a hole in the ground, until it was 65 degrees warmer than above. What kind of madness drives a man to dig a grave for himself before winter even bites? In the jagged foothills of the Montana Territory, 1893, Sealer's thorn is carving into the earth. He is not building up, he is building down, burying his home beneath the very skin of earth from the ridge. Above, three riders on horseback pause to watch his strange, frantic labor. Sealers ignores them, his breath puffing in white clouds, his gloves worn through to the skin. Miller, a heavy-bearded neighbor, spits tobacco juice and cups a hand to shout down mockery. Hey there, Sealers. Planning on sleeping with the worms? You can't bury yourself alive, boy. Widow Jones, wrapped in heavy furs, her face pinched with judgment. Land sakes, child, that boy's digging his own coffin. Ain't no Christian way to live buried in the dirt like a rodent. You'll catch your death down there. A third voice, younger and full of arrogance, rings out. It is Thomas, the feed store owner's son. That ain't a cabin, it's a cellar. You gonna put your potatoes down there and live on 'em. When the snow melts, Sealers, we're gonna find a frozen popsicle stick in the mud. Sealers does not look up. He drives the shovel deeper, knowing a secret physics of survival. The stakes are absolute. Sealers was thrown out 3 weeks ago with only his clothes and tools. The accusation was theft, a lie to remove an unwanted mouth before the snows came. Now he possesses $4.30 a sack of beans and this unwanted land if he fails to build a shelter that can withstand the Montana winter. He will die. Temperatures drop to 50 below zero. The wind screams like a banshee, flaying flesh from bone. He has 2 weeks before the first blizzard locks the mountains in a tomb. No second chance. Failure means a frozen grave marked only by drifting snow. A body found in spring. Sealers lays the shovel aside and picks up a pickaxe. The innovation begins with the foundation. He is not merely digging a hole, he is excavating a geothermal battery. He clears a space 12 feet wide and 20 feet long deep below the frost line. Below 4 feet, the earth absorbs summer heat and holds it, maintaining a constant temperature. He tests this as he digs at 3 feet down. The soil is hard and cold. At 5 feet, the earth feels damp and surprisingly warm to the touch. By the time he reaches 6 feet, the thermometer reads 52 degrees. It feels like a summer breeze compared to the 30-degree air above. He gathers stone, dragging heavy limestone blocks from the creek bed. A quarter mile away, his back screams in protest, muscles seizing and cramping, but he moves with feverish energy for the rear wall. Sealers employs cordwood masonry to hold back the weight of the hill. He drags massive logs of deadfall pines stripped of bark and coated in clay and ash. He stacks these logs like firewood, mortaring them tight with the earth he has dug out. The spaces between the logs are packed with sawdust and lime for superior insulation. This creates a wall with immense thermal mass absorbing heat and releasing it slowly. Later, he calculates the R value in his head, a concept read about in a discarded journal. Mixing wood and mortar, he achieves double the R value of a standard log cabin. It is physics he cannot see, but he trusts the numbers with his very life. For the windows, he improvises with sheets of clear mica found in an old mine. For larger openings, he builds wooden shutters sealed tight with thick black pine tar. The roof is the masterpiece. He cannot afford trusses, so he fells young saplings. He bends them into a quonset-shaped arch over the excavated trench, creating a frame. He ties them together with rawhide strips cut from a scavenged deer carcass. Over this ribcage of saplings, he lays a thick layer of brush and an old salvaged canvas tarp. Finally, he shovels the displaced earth back over the top, burying his home under 2 feet of soil. The theory is simple. The Earth's temperature remains constant, roughly 50 degrees, defying the killing frost. By adding his own body heat and a small stove, he creates a defiant, warm microclimate, but doubt creeps in. The neighbors ride by every evening, their laughter a jagged twilight chorus. Miller returns red-faced from whiskey, building a burrow like a gopher. That roof will squash you. Widow Jones shakes her head. The Dampness will rot you from the inside out. A tomb Thomas laughs a house needs a view. You're gonna go crazy staring at a dirt wall. Silas's fingers are raw and split the cold stings with every movement. The weather is turning, the mornings are coated in hoarfrost, a crystalline warning of what is to come. His food supply is dwindling to a handful of beans a day. He spent his last dollars on a used cast-iron stove missing a leg, and rusted its smokes when he lights it, choking the air inside. The damp, dark hole, looking at the dirt walls and low-ceiling claustrophobia, grips him. The walls pulse inward. What if Miller is right? What if he has built nothing more than a frozen tomb? The wind whistling through saplings sounds mournful, like the earth itself, rejecting his presence. Night work becomes the only option. Silas works by the light of a pig-fat lantern. He packs dried grass and pine needles between the roof ribs for extra insulation. Adding the final layer of sod creates a living shield against the wind, while levering a stone for the hearth. A shadow falls across the entrance. Silas freezes. Old man Gideon, a hermit from the next valley, stands there. Old and bent, Gideon watches him for a long moment, his eyes reflecting the flickering lantern light. He does not speak. He reaches into his pack, pulling out dried sage and a small pouch of sulfur. He turns and walks away into the dark, a small silent, blessing the first kindness known in months. With renewed vigor, Silas finishes the hearth, mixing clay, sand, and water into a refractory mortar. He builds the chimney at an angle through the berm, creating a flue that draws air. He installs the heavy oak door, sealing gaps with wool felt from a discarded coat. The structure is complete. It is ugly, a mound of dirt with a wooden face. When he lights the stove, the heat radiates out, absorbed by the thick dirt walls. He is not afraid of the coming dark. The earth is holding the summer heat for 3 days. A strange calm settles over the valley. The sky is pale and washed out. Silas uses this time to gather firewood, dragging dead logs closer to his heavy door. He inspects the perimeter, piling more dirt against the walls to seal out any drafts from his window. He can see the neighbors. They are frantic, boarding up their windows. Miller is on his roof, hammering loose shingles, his face red with exertion and fear. Widow Jones is carrying load after load of coal, her face a mask of worry. The barometric pressure drops so low Silas's ears pop. The animals in the woods go silent. The silence is heavier than wood or stone. It is a world holding its breath. Silas closes his heavy wooden door and drops the locking bar into place. He piles extra logs on the fire. The cabin is warm, smelling of pine and clay. Then the storm hits. It does not start with snow. It starts with a sound, a low-frequency roar vibrating through the ground. The wind slams into the hillside like a freight train, a physical blow shaking the very earth. Outside, the world vanishes into a maelstrom of white. The temperature begins to plummet toward 40 below. Inside, the timber-framed houses above the battle begins and is quickly lost. Miller's roof, strained by ice and buffeted by the gale, begins to groan under the pressure. Cold penetrates the walls, turning bedrooms into iceboxes. Widow Jones's coal struggles to burn in Silas's buried home. The physics of the earth begins to work its silent magic. 2 feet of soil and a blanket of snow cover the roof. Holding the heat in, the wind screams over the mound, unable to find purchase on the smooth, rounded shelter. Inside, the temperature holds steady. The thermal mass releases warmth, absorbed during the early fires. Outside, the storm is a monster, a relentless and terrifying force of ice and wind. Miller's chimney collapses, filling his living room with thick soot and choking smoke. Miller's family flees to their root cellar, which is rapidly freezing in the gale. The widow Jones runs out of coal, her furnace dying in the killing cold. She huddles under every quilt. She owns her breath, freezing on the blanket. Silas lies on his bed of pine boughs and furs, listening to the chaos. He hears the crack of trees snapping and barn roofs peeling like apple skin. Distant shouts of neighbors are muffled by the wind and swallowed by the void. He feels a tremor of fear, not for himself, but for nature's power. He calculates the load in his head, thousands of pounds pressing down from above. but the arch of the saplings holds distributing the weight into the hillside. The only danger is ere he checks the ventilation pipe clear of the snow, he adds a log to the stove. The metal glows a comforting cherry red. While the world above is dying of cold, he is safe in the belly. The storm rages for 3 days. The temperature bottoms out at -65 degrees, a cold so severe it shatters steel on the morning of the 4th day. The wind dies silence, returns heavy and muffled. The sun comes out blindingly bright on a world transformed. Everything is buried, fences are gone, roads vanished, the landscape is a rolling plain of white sealers. Opens the door, he shoves against it with his shoulder, breaking the heavy ice seal. He falls into the snow, gasping. The air is so cold it hurts his lungs. Outside reads -65 degrees. Inside his doorway, the thermometer reads 0 degrees. It is a survival temperature. The buried earth maintained heat 65 degrees warmer than outside with the stove stoked again. The temperature shoots up. He climbs to the mound's top. Smoke rises lazily from his chimney, a gray plume against the intense post-storm blue sky. He sees movement in the distance. Miller is emerging from his house, his face black with soot. His roof is partially gone. Widow Jones stands in her yard, wrapped in blankets and weeping. They see the boy they cast out standing atop his mound. Unharmed and undeniably warm, they trudge through the deep snow, sinking to their waists, moving toward the source of smoke. Thomas is with them now, looking miserable and frightened, his arrogant expression completely gone. When they arrive, Miller stands shivering violently, his heavy beard a frozen chunk of ice. He looks at the open door, feeling the wave of heat washing out over the snow. Miller stares at the thermometer. How? It is 65 degrees warmer in here than outside. Sealers gestures for them to enter. The earth is warm. Miller stop fighting the wind. They crawl inside and collapse near the stove, weeping from the sheer relief of heat. The skepticism that defined their attitude for months evaporates in the face of the heat. The aftermath transforms the dynamic of the valley. The storm becomes a legend, a benchmark. Sealers' Earth Lodge, once a laughingstock, becomes a beacon. Other neighbors come for advice. They do not laugh now, they ask how to dig, stack stone, and vent. Sealers teaches them thermal mass airlocks and orienting buildings to catch the winter sun. He becomes the master of winter by surrendering to the wisdom of the earth. Miller sits by the fire, staring into flames, humbled by his house's destruction. He looks at Sealers not as an orphan, but as a man of substance. I was wrong, I called you a worm, but you built a fortress out of dirt, wood, and stone. Stand against the world, Miller, but the earth holds it. Trust it. Sealers sits by his heavy oak door. As the long winter twilight deepens across the Montana foothills, he was cast away as worthless, but by digging down, he found the valley's strongest position. True security comes not from wall height, but from connection to the planet's ancient, unyielding warmth. The ground does not judge, the earth holds heat and life. In its massive, silent hands he watches the moon rise over the white, silent valley, a world transformed by winter's grip. The smoke from his chimney mixes with the starlight, a testament to his quiet survival. The neighbors look at the hillside with respect, now understanding the boy did not bury himself. He planted himself in that dark, rich soil, and from it a new life has grown. Sealers pulls the door closed, sealing the warmth inside, safe in the belly of the earth. Perhaps you find yourself facing a winter of your own, a season where the world turns cold and resources seem scarce. Conventional wisdom says to build higher and fortify with pride. But maybe the answer lies in humility and digging deep. Survival is found in digging deep, in finding the thermal mass that sustains us when the wind screams. Do not fear the deep dark in the belly of the earth. Warmth remains when the surface is held. Sealers Thorn knew it, and now so do you. The fire burns low, the embers glowing soft and red. The night is long, but inside it is warm, safe in the belly of the earth.